This new Epiphone model caught my attention because it's labeled as a quilt top. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Tonight's episode is sponsored by Guitar Center. They wanted me to let you know about the Memorial Day sale that's happening right now until May 28th. You can get 35% off many new select models, as well as 10% off vintage and used that are priced $4.99 or higher, and it's a $500 max discount. And as always, you can use my affiliate links in the description to let Guitar Center know I sent you, because I love reviewing their exclusive guitars. So let's go ahead and see what we're working with here. Oh, wow. That is nice. I was a little bit worried because here's the stock photos of these. They come in an ocean blue burst as well as a cobra burst, but I'm sorry, those are not really quilt tops in my opinion. So if that was turning you off, I would say take the gamble anyways, because this is what I would consider a traditional quilt. It's a very light, airy blue hue. I would actually call it more sky blue. And I'll say from first impressions, I'm actually quite impressed by this. But if you're expecting a darker blue, maybe not for you, because when you flip it over to the back, this is the reason why I chose the blue one, is I like still being able to see the wood grain. And a translucent finish like this shows fingerprints a little bit less. But due to the kind of ashy gray and brown hues that the mahogany that they're using, as compared to your more white maple top, it definitely gives it a color difference. Another reason I picked this one out is it does not have a burst on it. I like the teardrop shapes or no burst at all. So this is a really nice looking guitar. Now that's not saying Cobra Burst isn't absolutely gorgeous. It was a tough choice. Perhaps Epiphone's done it in the past, but that's the first time I remember seeing it. But those will have the black back if you're not a fan of the color mismatch and seeing your scarf joins for your neck and headstock. So cosmetically, I'm quite elated by this. It has exceeded my expectations. It's a full gloss finish too. Now as far as the guitar itself, it's not too heavy. It's just about right. You can tell there's a little bit more weight in the neck. We'll see if it balances well. Take a couple of strums. I'd say it's about what I expect from most Epiphones. Could they use a super ultra deluxe fret polish? Sure, but it plays pretty nicely out of the box. I didn't notice any crazy buzzing, and I would say the action is fantastic. As these aren't the highest end Epiphones, they are $7.99, which puts them in their premium tier, but not their ultra premium. So that's the same price as the Epiphone Widows that we've talked about in the past, as well as the regular black and white Les Paul Customs. If you can't choose, there's also a white top, black back version with slightly different pickups. There's the straight up P90 equipped Les Paul Custom, done up in ebony. You could also choose the Wino Les Paul. That one's technically $50 more expensive. But if you want the Gibson headstock shape, there is the $12.99 inspired by Gibson Custom that also has the Gibson USA electronics in it if you're looking to spend a little bit more. As compared to the price of all those other ones, I'm honestly surprised there wasn't a small premium on here. This is a gorgeous guitar for the same price. It comes with your regular Epiphone gig bag. It's nothing too crazy. But let's just say it's better than nothing, because there's many manufacturers in the same price range that don't ship with anything. But to learn more about our sky blue Les Paul, let's go ahead and throw it onto the workbench to take a detailed look at its parts and specs. While disassembling this one, I was thinking about the website stock photos. I wonder if they purposefully chose those so they could under-promise and over-deliver. Because when it comes to a veneer top, they should be fairly consistent, but there's still no way to say for sure, how quilty one or the other will be. So there is a little bit of a random chance here. However, if you're looking for something specific, you could always call a Guitar Center store to see what they have. But as far as our pickups, it does indeed come stock with gold hardware, which I think looks nice. Although, try to visualize it here with chrome, I think that would also be okay. But these are coming stock with the Epiphone ProBucker 2 in the neck and the ProBucker 3 in the bridge. So that actually is different from the Widows, as they utilize the ProBucker custom pickups. So there actually is a difference besides just cosmetics between these. But I thought this was fun. Hey, we've got a little bit of leftover painter's tape in the cavity. But being a 70s Gibson fan, this really reminds me of a transitional neck tenon. It's not exactly what it is, but it was fun to see. Especially because we get to appreciate just how much darker the neck's wood is as compared to the body, even though it's the same species. And then here's what we got in our bridge pickup cavity. LP Custom OB for Ocean Blue, as well as our serial number with a QR code. As far as the cleanliness of the cavities, I would say the edges are pretty nice. But the actual body wood itself is kind of rough. And oh my goodness, speaking of the 70s, do you guys see what I see? Is that a pancake layer? Sure enough, I think that is maybe 1-2 layers put on top before the mahogany top. And then there has to be some sort of a quilted veneer here. Because I was thinking, well, is that actually a real maple top? But no, look, you've got a seam line showing right here, whereas you have your center seam right here for your quilt veneer above maple. But just to be sure I'm seeing what I'm seeing, if you come down to the edge of the body, we can see the body itself is 3 pieces. There's a seam line right here, and then another one over here along this edge. However, that line is right here. And this line does not line up with that, nor this one. And I could be wrong, but I think I see that in the other cavity too. But the reason why we don't see those additional pancakes from here is I think they use that to create the carved top. Wow, that's fascinating. I'm sure that could turn a few people off, but to me it's just, cool to see how they do it. Because it's not bad looking. And from the top, no one would ever know. But now we've got our bridge and tail piece to talk about. It's the Epiphone Locktone series, traditionally mounted. If you're not familiar with those, they have little barbs so they don't come off too easy. The reason for that is during string changes, if you flip your guitar around, it's not going to fall off. You have to purposefully be trying to get these things off. Same thing is true on our golden tailpiece. It's Epiphone branded on the back too, and you can see those barbs more clearly. And stock from the factory, you get the speed knob style, and it's just your regular 2 volumes and 2 tones, 1 for each pickup set. This is the bridge controls, neck controls. And our pickup ratings within the circuit are 874 k ohms, 8.08 in the neck, good old Bob, and 420 in the middle. I'm gonna have to speak to Bob about that. But look at this, no pick guard. I really, really wish that's just how this would have came stock. Because if you want to have that same look, you're going to have this at the same time, a giant hole in your top. That looks so premium and luscious. I'm really glad I chose this color. But we can take a second to appreciate the top that this particular one has. I do notice around our binding, you can see what looks like an ultra black layer. I believe what that is the finish is running up and over top of the binding. But to be fair, it actually creates kind of a cool effect. You've got a similar phenomenon going on over here. You see that light blue layer around your binding? That's pretty consistent throughout. They just didn't run their razor blade quite deep enough. That's especially prevalent in our cutaway. Not much you can really do about that now after the clear coat has been put on though. Well, moving on from our body, we've got our mahogany neck with ebony fretboard. This is exactly how it came from the factory. I did not do any conditioning or additional polishing to the frets. I would say this is adequate. However, as I was talking about earlier, you might consider a higher level of fret polishing. You can check out this video over here on the screen if you need to learn how to do that. That will transform the playability of your instrument, and all it takes is a couple of dollars and about an hour of your time. But we have our typical acrylic block inlays with a 12-inch fretboard radius and a 24 3/4-inch scale, and it's advertised as a slim taper mahogany neck. The best way I would describe this is it has a little bit of a D shape right up by the nut, but then it quickly transforms into just a straight up C. So if you don't like that typical Epiphone D, I think you'll be okay with this in your chording area. Let's see. Starting about right here, you start to lose the back, like it comes in, and then you get a little bit more shoulder here that you can feel before you eventually hit the heel. So it really does feel like there's just a little bit extra right here before it starts to slim out. That's a nice neck profile, I think. But if a candid explanation isn't your style, here's the specs. 1.697 at the nut, increases to 2.09 by the 12. First fret neck depth, relatively skinny, 0.79, and increases to about 0.95 at the 12. And as a visual representation, here it is at the first fret and the 12th fret. You can kind of see what I was talking about. But now moving on to our headstock. It's the newer Gibson Kalamazoo style. I'm always going to say newer, but it's been like, 5 years since Epiphone has reintroduced this. And when Epiphone first relaunched in 2020, there were a lot of fret leveling issues, and I still get comments of people saying, Epiphone frets are garbage. In my experience, these newer ones have actually been really good as far as the fret leveling and no buzzing from the factory. It's really just a polishing job that they need, in my experience anyway. But we do have a real pearl Epiphone logo with our custom emblem, golden tuners, and all our great multi-banded binding all along our headstock. But now I've got it all put back together. Full disclosure, I did go ahead and give a mild polishing to our frets and conditioned our board now. So if you were curious what it would look like after that process, there you go. But I do want to clear a spec up on their website. It's labeled as a quilted mahogany body. I think what they were trying to say is the body is made out of mahogany and it is a quilted look on the top side. Because this is a maple veneer. I did not see a maple top. So it technically is a mahogany body, but that is worded very strangely, because if I hear it's got a quilted body, I'm expecting quilted mahogany back here. Which, to be fair, sometimes you can find some chatoyance and figuring within the bodies back here, but it's just a nice light grayish blue. I like it because I enjoy seeing wood grain. Your opinion may vary. But now let's dive into our control cavity. Looks like we've got CTS 500K pots, so you shouldn't have to worry about replacing those, but if you want to upgrade your pickups one day, it's all in here you can do. The Epiphones are on a quick connect system, however, it's not like a PCB in here, it's just the quick connects go in there, and then the wires are soldered onto the pots. So easy enough to put other stuff in here. Or you can pay a tech to do it. So I wanted to see, can we see those layers here? And no, we can't, but remember, my theory is that they use that to help create the carved top. So naturally, you wouldn't see that here, but we can see one of our body seam lines right there. So moving on from there, we've got our output jack on the side. We've got our regular Epiphone style strap buttons in all of our usual locations. This is technically thin binding in the cutaway, but again, since we don't have a traditional maple top, we're not seeing any of those layers. But we can look around our edges just for fun. You don't always get to see these in the stock photos. I would really petition them to rename this sky blue though. But at the same time, I'm sure there's oceans that are crystal clear like this. I don't have anything like that around me, so maybe that's why I think of the sky. But moving on from our mahogany body, again, our mahogany neck. And if you couldn't see that seam line earlier, it's right here. So you've got your entire neck piece right here, but in order to fully craft the heel that then joins onto the body, they put another little piece of mahogany over here just to give it more surface area to glue onto. Unless you know to look for it, it's not all that super visible, especially on the back side. You really have to look at the side grain over here. But naturally, the same is true once we eventually get to our headstock here. You can see a scarf joining of woods right here. And if you know to look for it, right here on the edge. But these are still being made in China. We've got our Grover tuners that are also gold, and it looks like this one was made in January of 2025, so a fresh one. But how's our weight on this blue beauty? 8 pounds, 14.3 ounces, so just a little under 9. That's about right for a Les Paul. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. I don't know about you guys, but I think those clean tones actually sound quite nice. I really favor that middle position. Nice and chimey. You can tell it favors the bridge just a tad because that's nice and bitey. And then our neck. If you're a more skilled blues player than I am, I think you would actually enjoy that quite a bit. Nothing wrong with that on cleans. Let's check out the dirty. Are we even sure these are Epiphone pickups? There's nothing wrong with that. Now let's see how our volume controls work. I don't know about you guys, but I think that is way better than the Widow we had documented, because that one had like 3 settings on that. That's dynamic all the way. And that's the neck pickup. Usually those get really muddy. Try the same with our bridge. I will say it goes to 0 at about 2. But other than that, it's very dynamic. So there we go, the new Epiphone Quilt top. What are my final thoughts on this? This is my favorite Epiphone I've demoed in a long time. Like, those Widows were fantastic. I didn't think it would get much better than that orange one. But this one speaks to me in a unique way because, let's face it, if you're watching my show, you know I document every single Les Paul iteration ever made. But this one, I just can't remember seeing it anywhere else. There is one Les Paul custom that Gibson made that was similar to this. I think around 2016 I've seen it on Reverb, but it's just such a fresh take. And as far as the back also being this whole sky blue, it just speaks to me cosmetically, and that brings out so much more out of me musically. But on top of that, ProBucker 2 and 3, fantastic. I really would not even suggest changing those. I thought they sounded fantastic, especially since we have very nice pots that can actually roll off and get you different tones in between, and it's not just like 1, 2, or 3 settings. So those were all the pros. What cons did I find? There were a few tiny nitpicky things with the finish, like we were talking about over on the binding and how it runs up a tad. You might not love that it's a super multi-pieced body and with layers in between, but hey, you know, it is what it is. It looks good to me from the front, and from the back it also looks good. And hey, I forgot to make mention of this. There's another layer we didn't talk about. They have to have a veneer over top of the back, otherwise we would see the seam lines there. So they really do put a lot of work into crafting these bodies to make them still look traditional. The only other thing I would have to knock a couple of points on are the wiring on this one was very fragile. Now, when we took the pickup readings earlier on the Workbench, it was all working. However, as soon as I went to plug it in, the neck was not working. Now, I believe that was on me, 100% on me, but if in my small inspection of just barely moving wires has a wire come loose, which by the way, it was the red one on the neck pickup, it just needed attached to the lug of the pot. It wasn't a big deal, but that really shouldn't happen because I hardly even touched those wires. So don't hold that against the guitar. That's just be careful if you happen to take it apart for some reason, because you're like me and you like to see how guitars are crafted and whatnot. As far as the tuning, it was mainly just the G and B strings that I had to constantly keep tweaking. However, do yourself a favor, upgrade the strings right away. This is the stock strings. They sounded good, but there's definitely better strings you can put on these. Even if it's just the cheapest set of Ernie balls, you might get better enjoyment out of it. So I would highly suggest one of these if you're in the market for an Epiphone Les Paul custom. And I mean that sincerely, because what's cool about these is they're a little bit more traditional than those Widows. However, they're a lot more modern than just like the black and white. So it falls in this interesting modern but not too crazy category. So I think Guitar Center has a home run on their hands. So if you're interested in one of these, please use my affiliate links in the description. That lets Guitar Center know that I sent you there. And even if you're not buying the guitar, you can buy a pack of strings still using those same affiliate links. Once you click, that will give me a small credit. But all right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed checking out this new Epiphone. I know I enjoyed it, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.